All right. Welcome in to the Toilets to Titles podcast, the one of the newest podcasts out there because it has been created right now. And this show is going to be about fantasy football, regular football. I'm sure we'll get into IDP, NFL draft, all sorts of fun football topics. If you listen to my other show, the Trifocal Football Podcast, many of those things. But this time, I'm going to be joined by a friend, and that friend is Justin Stevens. Justin, my co-host, what's happening?
Hey, how's it going, John?
I'm good, man. I'm excited that we finally got this thing started.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Been looking forward to working with you for a while.
Good. I've been looking forward to that, having my own show, and it's fun, but it's nothing like chatting with a friend, especially about football. Talking, points and stuff like that. It's one thing to get points across to try to help people win leagues or just, give your opinions for any reason for other people to pick them up. But it's another thing to do that with a friend. And I'm really looking forward to this, man.
Absolutely. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So this is the first show, clearly, hopefully the first of many. This show, like I said, is going to be about all things football. I'm hoping to do it at least once a week right now. Everything's crazy. Obviously, we're going through some strange times right now. And some people, our schedules are all a little wonky. So we don't necessarily have a date that we're going to drop episodes. I'm sure sometimes we might drop 2 a week. Sometimes it might be 1 a week. And then maybe we'll miss a week. But what we can say is when we drop an episode, it's going to be entertaining, it's going to be fun, and it's going to have football information. And right now we don't have much going on as far as sports go. So I think we could all use a little more of that.
Yeah, we can definitely use a break from the grind. And we're both busy guys with busy schedules, and we're just normal people that just love football. So that's what the show is going to be about.
I'm glad we got the video stream up. This is something I've never done on any of my shows before. It's always something I've looked to do. So I'm glad, things are looking cool.
Yeah, we're going to be on Podbean and iTunes. We're already on YouTube right now as we speak, and Periscope. So we're going to be out there, videos and everything. So
well, let's give a little bit about who we are in case you don't know us, right? Because me and Justin, we met through playing fantasy football. Responding to each other's questions, on social media about certain things, and then eventually getting into leagues together. And I think we're in like 3 or 4 together now. And I know for some people are in 20 to 30. Personally, I'm in 5. So the fact that we're in 3 or 4, it's more than half of the leagues I'm in. So I get a steady dose of Justin on the regular.
I think at last count, 15 dynasty. I'm committed to 5 redrafts every year that I'm not gonna shy away from. And then I've really gotten into best ball over the last year as well. So unfortunately, I've kind of held back on the number of drafts that I'm going to be in from here on out until we find out more about what's going to happen with the NFL season this year with the COVID and stuff. So but yeah, I'm pretty active when it comes to leagues and Twitter and all that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I know you are. Your handle on social media grew tremendously, I think, in a year. Me, I think I had my handle for about 2 or 3, a few years, because I strictly had it for coaching, and then I eventually used it also for my podcast, which I don't currently have my social media up now because I'm trying to keep myself busy with other things. But I know yours grew pretty rapidly, so I know you're very interactive. Follow Justin at JustinFF_. Again, any fantasy football questions, anything you got, draft, whatever, reach out to him, and he's going to get back to you, or he's going to share it, and he's got a lot of people following him that will chime in. Also, the show is going to have a Twitter handle. I'll hop on there here and there. That'll be at Toilets to Titles. Now, personally, before we get into what we're going to talk about today, just so if you don't know who I am, you don't know who Justin is, we're going to give a little background on who we are. Clearly, my name is John. I'm from the state of New York. I played high school football. I played football my whole life. I loved football. My wife often tells me if I could remember things as easily as I remember football things, I might be doing a little better for myself, but I can't help it. Things like I can just remember names and colleges and all that stuff. Like I'm sure if you're listening to this show in May, you're probably just like me. I'm no different than you. But that's who I am. And I'm currently a high school football coach. I coached defensive backs for 2 or 3 years. I coached the off-season strength and conditioning program, speed and agility, and then the in-season conditioning for about 2 or 3 years. And now I'm coaching wide receivers, which is my specialty. I'm glad, to finally do that. And it's interesting. I always work with wide receivers on the side. I do personal training. But then I learned, I played defensive back in high school. I was able to coach that. And then coaching wide receiver, coaching both sides of the ball. It's like coaching chess, but both sides. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. So it's fun watching that. Also, I'm a fantasy football player for the last 10 years. That's nothing to brag about, but that's just I've been playing for about 10 to 12 years. Started with the redraft, then I was looking for a little more, again, because I'm a football nut, found Dynasty, and then since then I've gotten out of my redraft leagues, and I'm strictly in Dynasty. Every year I do maybe one redraft league, but it's mostly Dynasty. Justin, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, we have a lot in common. I played football in junior high and high school, and outside of that, I tried to get into some coaching, mostly coached my kids' little league teams and stuff like that, but because I had kids at a really young age, but I still love football. I've been playing fantasy football for about 15 years, almost all redraft up until this last year was the first full season of Dynasty. I finally gave it a chance for a full year. I played around with the league about 5 or 6 years ago, didn't like it, but this past year I gave it a real chance with some of your leagues, Coach, along with a couple of other leagues, and I'm hooked. I love Dynasty now. But yeah, I've got 2 boys. My main job right now is a substitute teacher. I worked in deliveries for about 15 years, but got a awesome wife that handles the 9 to 5 grind, and kind of very supportive of my addiction here, my little habit. But hopefully we can make it pay off later on. But for right now, it's just having fun and talking football. So I guess that's what we do.
Yeah, I guess I should have mentioned I have 2 kids as well. My son's name is Emmett, so I think that that'll give you a little bit of a hint as to.
My youngest son is Peyton.
Well, there we go. My son's name's Emmett. I got to name my son. My wife got to name our daughter. My daughter's named Dylan after Bob Dylan. So we're actually from upstate New York, which like 15, 20 minutes from Woodstock, and where Dylan has a house. So he's a legend up here. But yeah, man, I did in those leagues. Last year was my best Dynasty football league ever. I went 4-0 in 4 Dynasty leagues. And I won in that one league, the fictional fantasy football league. I think I won in as the 2 seed, and the 1 seed was crushing it all season. And I made a trade for Zeke right before the playoffs. Here's a quick fantasy debate we can have before we're going to talk about the NFL schedule because it just released before we get into football stuff. But this was
some important stuff.
This is a little debate that we can have. Do you think Dynasty leagues, not redraft, Dynasty, should have trade deadlines?
Nah, I don't think so.
You playing in the leagues with trade deadlines?
In Dynasty, I do not. Like I said, I'm in like 15 Dynasty leagues. That's if I'm counting correctly, and I don't think any of them have a trade deadline.
How many of those did you get in this offseason?
Well, all of them. I just started. Well, this offseason probably about 6 or 8. Did
you join the Granddaddy, the Debbie League I'm doing? Are you in that league?
No, I'm too scared to jump into Debbie just yet. You did ask me, but I'm too scared to jump into Debbie.
Man, Tim Holland, he's like my right-hand man in some of my Dynasty leagues. He's so good with MFL. I only use my fantasy league, and especially with like, I'm okay at organizing and reaching out to people about stuff and keeping people on top of things, and I'm okay at the daily grind of commissioning a league. But he's having Shane, especially with the Devi league, and setting up like docs, because Devi, you got to have a separate draft because we already had our startup draft, so you can't have two in the same year. So we had our startup draft, Devi draft, and he set up the doc. So praise to Shane Hallam. If you listen to this, I appreciate you, man. But now here we go with the. So I know some people believe you should have a trade deadline. I don't think you should in Dynasty, because if you are a team, say you own Julio Jones, right, and you're out, you have no shot, and the Julio's on a hot streak. The team that the number 3 or number 4 seed, he's stacked at running back, stacked at quarterback, stacked at tight end, but he's got like a wide receiver 1 and a major drop off. Say that guy has accumulated picks, and he's willing to ship those picks to win now. And then this guy who can't, if he's rebuilding, Julio ain't going to help him. Excuse me. I can't tell you how long Julio's going to play for. The dude's built like a horse, but I'm just using an example. Then I think that's the ebb and flow of Dynasty. I think, that's the way it should go, Yeah,
that gives the new Julio owner an opportunity to win his title, and it gives the old Julio owner an opportunity to rebuild his team. I'm not typically a guy that enjoys trades very much. I think sometimes that might frustrate you because of your style. You love to trade. You're always about trading, but I like to build from within. And to give you an idea, in one of my dynasty leagues, actually I think the second or third one I joined, we call it the DGAF league, but it stands for don't get any flex. but we I made a big trade. I traded away a first round pick and a quarterback to get Andrew Luck, and I already had Lamar Miller on that team, and they both went out the same night. Like later on, I think it was later on that night, or maybe a few days after I got them. They both went out the same night during that draft, and I was so mad and upset. And I was at another draft, a live draft, when it happened. So I started trading assets. I wound up with like 25 draft picks in this last draft, and I had a blast. It was fun. Now my team is all rookies or a couple second-year players like Daniel Jones and whatnot. But so I'm gonna lose for a while, but it was a lot of fun. And that's what fantasy football is really all about, right? I mean, I'm building my team to succeed in the distant future. In the right now, I'm not going to win a lot in that league, but I'm still having a lot of fun building it. So I think that not having a trade deadline gives every owner the opportunity to run his team the way that he wants to run it.
I think if you play Dynasty and if you trade, you've had experience of both sides of the quarter. I just made a trade in the Devi league like a month or so ago before the draft. I was really high on Anthony Gordon. I traded forget who I traded. It was it was Jarrett Stidham. Traded Jarrett Stidham in a 2021 second, I believe. Or no, I traded Jarrett Stidham in the 2.01 in Devi, which this is the first year of Devi, so that pick is gold. Traded that for Jalen Hurts, Anthony Gordon, and a 2021 second. Gordon ends up in Seattle, crushes me. So if Hurts wins the job, I think it's fair. But I still, who knows what's going to happen with Stidham. But right now, the way things panned out, I'm not feeling too good about that. But all right, so that's, we're going to get into some more fantasy football talk, and that's clearly what's going to happen on the show. We're going to go on tangents because we both, we enjoy talking about this stuff. But let's get into the 2020 NFL schedule that was released. I can tell you, I didn't watch the schedule release show. I was following Twitter throughout the day and seeing people post, games that they were finding, on the schedule. Did you watch it?
I did not watch it. No, I did some looking around this morning, and I listened to. I like to listen to PFF with Jeff Radcliffe. He's pretty good about informational stuff like that. So something that's new in the NFL or current events in the NFL, he likes to put out a lot of information about it. So I listened to him this morning, and I'm excited. I'm excited about the season. We got a lot going on.
Yeah, so I listen to him too. He's like one of the only shows I listen to. I like him a lot. I listen to other podcasts on like personal training and mindfulness and stuff like that. But as far as fantasy football goes, I listen to Jeff Ratcliffe. I like him a lot. All right, so week one, there's a lot of games. You know, it's the first 2 weeks of the season are kind of like bittersweet for me. It's like licking honey off of a razor blade because it's like you're so excited, but then it's like, you know, this player, this team isn't what they're going to be. I feel like it takes four weeks for that team to be, this is what they are, you know? So the first 2 weeks, you don't really get that. So that's why every year the Cowboys start with the Giants usually, and I hate that. They usually win, but it's like, I want them to play when they're both established. But the first week of the season, the game that interests me is Dolphins-Patriots. I don't think Tua is going to play. You know, who knows if we'll even have week one. Personally, I'm hoping they do, but I'm hoping they do it without, audience. Just play the game, quarantine the play. I need this. I need it. I need football. Dolphins, Patriots, week one, clearly I'm interested in Cowboys, Rams. I think that's going to be a great game. The Rams have had our number the past few years. I think the Cowboys are going to give it to them. But Dolphins, Patriots, this game could be a changing of the guard because the Dolphins – They drafted Noah Igbinoghene in the second round. They already got Xavier Howard. They already got Byron Jones. Their secondary is going to be loaded. Jerome Baker, linebacker up and coming, he's solid. Their defensive line is okay, but I think the Patriots are going to have to run the ball. I think they're going to have to run the ball. And then the Dolphins on offense, who knows what they're going to look like. Hopefully Preston Williams is healthy. I know Jordan Howard's there, but this is going to be – I think that game is going to be interesting.
Yeah, and you mentioned Noah Igbinoghene. What I like about him is that he's a shutdown corner in man-to-man. Like he's not much of a zone coverage guy, but you get him in that slot position, which is probably where he's going to play a lot, playing behind the other two big-name defensive backs.
Who are both also man corners.
Right, exactly. They're probably going to play a lot of man, but – but against the Patriots, who don't really have a whole lot of great receiving options and a fresh new quarterback, I mean, I as a Colts fan would love to see a changing of the guards. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, Flores. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If we're still talking about that game, you should go ahead.
I was going to say Flores is building like the Patriots. They like to build from the back up, secondary to defensive line. And that's what the Dolphins are doing. And that's what he learned from Bill. So it's,
absolutely
watch.
Yeah. Hopefully Bill will take a back seat and be his assistant one day.
Yeah, Bill's a dude. Bill's a dude.
Yeah, he is.
Bill's a great coach.
Yeah, he really knows how to get away with things. But my week one that I'm most excited about, even though I don't like the guy, you got to respect him as a player, is seeing Tampa Bay against New Orleans in week one to see it's a divisional game right out the gate. We get to see Tom Brady and Drew Brees go at it. And what could be, Brady could be there for 2-3 more years. Who knows what he's got left in him. But with that wide receiving core, they have an amazingly easy schedule against defenses, especially in that conference, or I'm sorry, that division. I could see Brady still light it up again. He set himself up for success, so we'll have to see. It's not like it's not like he got rid of Bill Belichick and went to some chump coach either. Arians knows what he's doing as well. He knows how to utilize the tools that he has. So
it's all Colts based. It's all Colts based. Arians, Belichick, Brady.
Hey man, you wanted to bring me on for my specialties, and my specialties are the Colts, man. That's what I know.
What I'm interested in this game is in two players. I'm interested to see what Gronk looks like, and I'm interested to see what Kamara looks like. Is Kamara in one league? I had in a Devy league I play in, the first Devy league I ever played in. I drafted really well 3 or 4 years ago. Jerry Jeudy, Jonathan Taylor, CeeDee Lamb. It's a bunch of studs. I got Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, all those guys. I shipped everybody but Lawrence and Lamb. So I got Kylan Hill. I got Rondale Moore. But I got Kamara. I got Christian McCaffrey. I won a championship last year, and I'm thinking of shipping either Kamara or McCaffrey and keep restocking. Because when Lawrence comes in, I already got Mahomes. This league I got Mike Evans. I got Tyreek Hill. Like I want to be restocking. What's that?
What league is that?
It's a Devy league.
Oh, never mind.
No, but so I'm thinking of trading Kamara.
Trading guys that I might try to go after.
Yeah, I'm thinking about trading either McCaffrey or Kamara, just because I don't know. I don't know if both of them can sustain, but I feel like I can get more from McCaffrey right now. I feel like he at least has another huge year. But mainly so we can keep this moving. What I'm looking at is Kamara and Gronk. What do they look like, this early in the season?
And I can already tell we're not going to have time to get to the last segment where we talk about rookie landing spots. But in that particular game, I want to see if they use Vaughn at all.
Okay. Yeah. I
love Vaughn in that offense. I think he could be that next James White.
Yeah, I think, we'll save the rookie stuff for next episode. We could do like a full rookie, talk about how it affects veterans and stuff like that. The next week, right? Week 2, we got, what do we got here? What do you have for week 2? What is the games you're looking at?
I've got the Chargers and the Chiefs in week 2 because it's going to be the Chargers' first game in their new stadium. So that's just something that's kind of highlighted there. Of course, divisional games are always going to be fun to watch, but it'll be interesting to see. I mean, the Chiefs didn't really lose anything, across the board, they didn't really lose much. So they should still be really good.
And Willie Gay, the linebacker they drafted, should match up well with Austin Eckler, which is interesting.
Okay.
We also got Derwin James. They have Desmond King. They have guys who I feel like can match up, with – I'm sorry. I'm talking about the Chargers. No, Chiefs don't have Derwin James or Desmond King. The Chiefs have Willie Gay, and he can match up well with the running back out of the backfield for the Chargers. I'm mixing my teams up right now.
Right.
But with that game, though, what I think is going to be a little disappointing is I think Tyrod is going to start. And I think, we're going to see a much better matchup when they play again. I assume we'll see Herbert later in the year. So I don't know when they play again. It's going to be further down the road. I feel like this game, it's early on. The Chargers might give them a run for the money because the Chargers got a tough defense, man, like those guys that I mentioned before, Desmond King, Derwin James, Joey Bosa, and now they got Kenneth Murray, right? So This is going to be a very interesting game.
Yeah, and that quarterback, that's a part of the intrigue of the matchup. If Tyrod continues to play well, we may not see Herbert until later.
All right, and then week 3, the game I like, Cowboys Seahawks. I think these are two teams that when they play each other over the last 4 or 5 years, from Romo's last year playing to up until now, they play each other very well because both teams pride themselves in toughness. And, Zeke runs hard. Chris Carson runs hard. DJ Dallas, that's a name to watch because Carson can't hold on to the ball. Penny can't stay healthy. Penny, they're already saying, is going to start the season on PUP. DJ Dallas is a guy to own him because he's going to start some games for the Seahawks this year. But Russell Wilson's a dude. DK Metcalf's a dude. I'm interested to see, is Randy Gregory going to be back? Is Aldon Smith going to be back? How do either of those guys look? Are they going to be playing a 3-4, the Cowboys? Is Jalen going to be coming off the edge, or is he going to be playing in the middle? How is Gerald McCoy and Dontari Poe going to look? So there's a lot of different pieces on the Cowboys defense, and this is going to be a big test going against that Seahawks offense.
Yeah, those two teams are built so similarly. It's insane, right? I mean, like you sometimes. I mean, I understand that Russell Wilson is one of the best quarterbacks going right now, but Dak isn't a chump, and they build that offense around him, kind of just like they built the offense around Russell Wilson. So, yeah, that should be an interesting, fun game.
I think with adding CeeDee Lamb and adding that weapon, defenses are not going to be able to stack the box. And Zeke is going to be running against boxes that are vacant as far as what he's seen since he got into the NFL. So he's another guy this year, in fantasy and redraft too. Like if he stays healthy, this might be the best year of his career. Any other games for you this week?
No, not week 3.
All right. So what do you got for week 4?
I didn't break it down per week.
Okay. Well, week 4, we can move on. I don't really see, nothing too exciting there. Patriots.
I wrote down some like little things to look for when you're trying to build your fantasy team, like things like the Saints have 3 primetime games in the first 5 weeks. So there are only 3 primetime games. I mean, if you're like me and it's kind of like a tiebreaker and you want to make sure that you're able to see your guys play, it's something to consider. But also, I thought it was interesting too that there are 5. The most primetime games scheduled for any one team in NFL history was 5. And this season we had the Chiefs, the Bucks, the 49ers, and the Ravens were all scheduled with 5. And then the 49ers could actually get flexed into a 6th in week 16. So they had that many primetime games. Like, you can tell where the focus of the money is trying to go to. And then also something to consider is that a lot there, like even more so than last year. Like last year, it seemed like they tried to make it a point to have more divisional games early on. There's even more this year in the first 3 or 4 weeks, and a lot of people are saying that the best way to reschedule these games, if they do get pushed back, is to take the games from the beginning and push them off to the end. And the NFL has already stated that they're willing to go deep, like into this time of the year next year. If it requires a Super Bowl in late April, early May, they're not going to be afraid to do it. So you might see a lot of doubling up where those divisional games at the end of the season are going to be followed by the divisional games that were supposed to be at the beginning of the season. So yeah, you could have like 5 games left to go in the season and still have absolutely no idea from first to last who's going to win your division because of all the possible tiebreaker implements.
Now, to just touch on a game from that week, that Sunday night game that week is Eagles-Niners. You mentioned the Niners having a bunch of primetime games. That could be an interesting one. If Wentz is healthy, Wentz and Garoppolo, 2 young quarterbacks who are kind of coming into their prime right now, they need to prove themselves. They need to prove that they can win. And, the Eagles always play tough, and the 49ers, I feel like teams that lose in the Super Bowl generally have a rough go at it, for the most part the year after. So maybe the 49ers will have that happen, maybe not. Week 5, I like Bills-Titans. As I talked about the Cowboys-Seahawks earlier being 2 tough teams, Bills and Titans, both of these teams eat glass. And let's see if Derrick Henry's back. Zach Moss next to Devin Singletary. I was talking about that prior to the draft. I thought that would be a great move. They went ahead and did it. That's thunder and lightning. I can't wait to see that. And now you add Stephon Diggs next to John Brown, 2 guys that just fly. And Allen can chuck the thing as far as they could run. So that's looking good. Tannehill now. A.J. Brown going into his 2nd year. And that defense is no slouch either, led by Kevin Byard. I like that matchup a lot.
Oh, you mentioned Josh Allen. He does have the toughest schedule, or the 2nd toughest schedule, and if you compare it to last year's numbers. So I know that's not an exact thing. It's not like a sticky stat or anything, but something to consider is that during the home stretch of fantasy football, Josh Allen's going to be facing the Chargers, the Niners, the Steelers, the Broncos, and the Patriots in weeks 12 through 16. So that's something to consider.
Wow.
With that. With those running backs and those wide receivers and that high-flying offense that they're trying to build, if they come out to something big early, he might be a quarterback that you can target in drafts a little bit later and then get something a little more out of him about midway through the season before they start to get into the meat of that rough schedule at the end.
That's hopefully he gets hot, and then the sell window opens.
Right.
You flip him before those games.
Right.
Week 6. Then the Chiefs play the Bills. So we're going to know a lot about the Bills after they play the Titans. Going from the Titans to the Chiefs, those are 2 back-to-back tough weeks.
Yep.
Ravens, Eagles, that one looks good that week. And then what's your next game there?
I know on October 11th, I don't know which week that is, but October 11th, that Giants and Cowboys game. I'm looking forward to that. I know you are too, as a Cowboys fan. But
living in New York,
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure that's always fun. But you got Jason Garrett as the offensive coordinator for the Giants now, and obviously he knows that team. He's been there for about 600 years longer than he should have been. So, but I can't wait to see. I love it when players get to go back to their former teams. I love it when coaches get to go back and play against their former teams. So it's just entertaining, really.
That'll be a good matchup. The Giants and the Cowboys always play each other well. Dak has a good record against the Giants, but I think Slayton's going to come on this year. Evan Ingram's coming on. Barkley should do well. Their line should get better. They drafted Xavier McKinney, who Saban saying was the steal of the draft. So this is going to be a good match. I think the NFC East. I think the Redskins are going to be a lot better than people are expecting this year too. So a lot of the NFC East matchups, like the next week, Week 6. So that was a Week 5 matchup. Week 6, the Redskins play the Giants. I think that's going to be a good matchup. And then the Packers play the Buccaneers Week 6. We're going to get to see Aaron Rodgers go against Brady, in division. It's not a conference game. I'm sorry, it's not a division game. It's a conference game.
Right.
But it still matters for playoff hope, right? It's like seeing Brady play Manning for playoff seeding. Now Brady's going against Rodgers. I don't think Rodgers is what he was. Some people do, but I don't. I do think he'll. What's that?
And neither is Brady. I mean, they're both at the back end of their careers.
Right. And then let's see, going down. What's your next matchup?
I don't have a particular matchup again until probably Week 13.
Which one's that?
It really stands out to me. That's the Tua versus Burrow showdown. Ooh. If they both have this, I mean, obviously, I'm pretty sure Burrow pretty well got the starting position by way of them letting Dalton go. But I mean, as long as Tua's healthy at that point in the season, I mean, I would like to think that Tua is going to take that job over. But you also can't count out old man Fitz. Like, that guy's like a cockroach. I don't know that he's ever going to die or leave the NFL. But Tua is, in my mind, when he's healthy, the most NFL ready quarterback. I think that he has that running ability. He can throw. He can read defenses.
Poise. He's got poise.
Yeah, like no situation is too tough for him. He plays up to his competition. So, but he's just got to stay healthy.
Then the Thursday night that week, the Cowboys have the Ravens, Week 13. That's going to be a tough matchup. Then we got Rams Cardinals that week, Patriots Chargers, Eagles Packers, Broncos Chiefs, and Niners Bills. So it's looking like Week 13 is going to be a lot of fun. We could go on and on, but clearly, as the season gets closer and we kind of have an idea about more of what these teams are looking like, we can get further into the schedule. But I think the fact that we touched on some of the early games, all we can do is hope that these games come as soon as they're supposed to. Like Justin said, the NFL said they have no issue right now pushing these games down the line, and that's great because that means we are going to get 16 games. It's just a matter of when they start. So I'm just hoping they find, clearly I'm hoping this thing clears up or they figure something out, so that we can go back to normal life as soon as possible. Now, if they could start football in September, that'd be great, but that means they got to start in August at least. They can't start the second week of August and expect to play in September. Football takes so much work, preparation. Right now they can go over the playbook, and these are all professionals, right? So if you were talking to high school students, you can't tell if these kids are learning the playbook. These guys are pros. You're hoping that, or rather expecting that they're going to come to the first training camp at least conditioned somewhat and knowing what they're doing. That should help this be streamlined, a little more efficient, so these games can start up on time. But right now, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, but a small part of me, deep down, would really like to see a huge delay where we see a Super Bowl played in May, an NFL combine and draft all within 2 weeks in June, a frenzy in July, and then boom, we're right back to football in August. How crazy would that be?
That would be bananas. But I would need to fast. Like you need to freeze me. Because if September is the freeze me when it starts. Because if this is September and we don't have football, I might have a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, but that honestly, I really do not see the NFL moving forward with football without some kind of a vaccine for this virus. I really don't. I just, it's not like
how can you come out with a vaccine?
I know
years of test.
Well, they say it typically takes at least a year to a year and a half.
Right.
So I mean, we could be pushing it, and they're putting all kinds of money and extra resources into it right now. So it could possibly be a little before a year. That's going to be pushing it towards around November. I mean, that could be possible. But my thinking is like it's not like golf where it's just one guy out there by himself. Like there's an offensive line and a defensive line that are hugging each other pretty much. Like we're not supposed to be doing that. We got to stay 6 feet apart, right? Like
they would have to quarantine these players for like 2 weeks prior to the season starting and have nobody have interaction with them.
Right.
Like they would have to create shuttles, they would have to sanitize the plane. Like they would have to keep these 50 men away from the world, like away from the world.
Before the game, they'd have to be tested right after the game, like the day after. Like they would be tested all the time. And my wife went through that testing. Luckily, it was negative, but she went through that testing, and I watched them shove that Q-tip through her nasal canal, and it made no. It's like that long. Don't worry, bro. We can edit that for the podcast. I mean, it was long and unbelievable. Like if I were a player, I wouldn't want to go through all that.
No,
like I have a hard time seeing all the NFL players being able to be agreeable enough to do all this on like getting tested like that twice a week, and then possibly not even be able to see your families once you're quarantined. I mean, it would be tough. So I'm not holding out a lot of hope. That's why I quit joining leagues. I backed off on best ball. I'm not joining best ball. I'm not doing anything until I find out exactly what they're going to do.
All right. Well, as this show goes on, the closer we get to September, right? Every episode, like we'll be able to go back and listen to our beliefs and attitudes towards this whole thing. When August comes, we'll be able to go back and we'll see how close we were, how off we might have been. But as we wrap this thing up, again, next show we'll talk about rookies, landing spots, all that stuff. We can have a few episodes on rookies because that's my favorite. We could even go and talk about college kids that are coming out next year's class. We'll talk about that as well. We'll have guests on, probably have John Laub on at some point, Matt Waldman, Shane Hallam. We'll get some draft gurus on here, maybe Dane Brugler. But before we wrap this up, we're a little doom and gloom. So let's talk about, our favorite parts of the off season, right? Because that's what we're in right now. We might have a long off season now. The NFL draft is my favorite. It's over, but I love the NFL. I almost like the NFL draft more than the season. As crazy as that can sound, NFL draft season is hope season. You can just sit there, hope and dream that everything's going to be okay. The NFL season comes and it cuts you in half. Reality cuts you in half, but NFL draft season, it's all hope. I love the Senior Bowl. I love keeping track of the Senior Bowl. I love seeing kids that break out, like Van Jefferson this year, Terry McLaurin the year before, Cooper Kupp, Kareem Hunt. Every year there's guys who come out of there that if you track it, if you watch the Senior Bowl and you see these kids that are impressing people, you can load up your fantasy football roster with these cats, and most of them are going to break out. I love free agency. Free agency is kind of stressful. Cowboys normally don't do much. This year they've done a little more. They normally just sign their own guys. And then when training camp comes around, I love that. I love working in my office and watching training camp live, and kind of see what's going on and tracking teams and tracking players that are breaking out. I remember picking up Tyreek Hill. I remember picking up Antonio Brown for free in leagues because they broke out in training camp before people knew. Having them in on my team, and then I cut Antonio Brown later. That came back to haunt me. I didn't cut Tyreek Hill, and now I got him everywhere. So those three things light my fire. What are your favorite parts of the offseason?
I'm slowly getting into the more of the NFL draft now that I'm getting more into dynasty, because you're thinking long term in dynasty, but traditionally it's draft season for me. My main league with my buddies is a redraft league, and we're not just a live league that gets together in August. We get together in May to have a rules meeting, and we get together for the draft, and then we get together usually for the last week for the Super Bowl. We get together once a year to have some kind of a competition to determine draft order.
Tell me more. Tell me more
about the competition.
Yes.
Okay, so the first time I did it, it was like, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. I decided we were going to have a combine, kind of like the NFL rookie combine.
Stop.
Yeah, we had a 40-yard dash. We had a home run derby. We had a 3-point shooting contest, a beer chug. We shot cans with a BB gun. We played pool. We threw darts. We had a White Castle burger eating competition. So we had 10 different events, and you got points based on how you finished each event. At the end, whoever had the most points got first dibs on their draft order.
Did you finish this in a day?
2 days. It was over 2 days. It was a combine, man. You can't get a combine done in one day.
Bravo. That's outstanding.
But no, but since then we've played Texas Hold'em to determine draft order. This last time it was my turn again, because second place gets to choose, kind of like as a consolation prize. So I got second last year, and I chose to do a props bet for the Super Bowl. So during the Super Bowl, we had 40 different bets that we all bet points on, and I think I got like third or fourth on that. So I'm going to have third or fourth option for the draft. My 15-year-old son got first, so he's going to rake in the rewards of Christian McCaffrey if he doesn't trade out the pick. So we'll see.
All right. Well, all right. So that does it. We're going to wrap this thing up. I think it was a fun first episode. Again, we're going to get into, NFL draft talk. It's a time of year, player evaluations and rankings and rookie rankings. And then eventually we can get into, veteran rankings with the rookies in there. We can get into redraft stuff, IDP, all that stuff. But I want you to make sure when this gets up on Podbean, you go ahead, you hit subscribe. When it gets up on iTunes, that might take a few weeks. Their process generally takes a little bit longer. When that gets up there, please subscribe. I'm sure, Justin, you're going to share this video on Twitter, as soon as this thing's over. So, share this, like it, retweet it, all that stuff. We could really appreciate that, to try to grow the audience here. And then also we'll share the YouTube link. Go ahead.
I was going to say, same with YouTube. John's going to share the YouTube link in the descriptions if you're listening on Podbean and whatnot. But also make sure you hit that like and subscribe on YouTube for us, and leave a comment down below so that we can answer questions. Just like John said previously, we'll both be hitting the Toy Listed Titles, or at Toy Listed Titles on Twitter. I'm gonna be checking it at least 3 times a day. When I wake up, before I go to bed, and at some point in the middle of the day, just to answer questions, or drop little information here and there. But also my personal Twitter account, I'll also answer questions. I've been getting hit a lot there lately because of the draft season. I'll be more than happy to give you my opinions on anything, and roll from there. But please hit that subscribe and that like button, and hopefully we can grow this thing and have more resources to be able to give you more information and have a lot more fun with you, and maybe have you as a guest on the show one day.
We'll put the YouTube channel link in our bio of Toy Listed Titles, the Twitter handle. We'll also put the Podbean link somewhere in there as well. So, we'll have it posted in our tweets. We'll probably pin the YouTube channel, to the top of our tweets. But you'll be able to find that in our notes, or you could DM Justin on Twitter for the time being, or the show, and he could tell you. So everybody, if you're listening to the show, if anybody's listening to the show, I really appreciate you guys tuning in for the first week. I know there's so many people out there talking about football, fantasy football, the NFL schedule. You could be listening to anybody right now. The fact that you chose to listen to us, I do appreciate your time.